I've contemplated posting this for years, but the emotional capital of writing this out always felt too heavy. It chills me to this day when I think about what happened, or should I say, could have happened, to my sister and I in 2007. I was 25, she was 23. We were living in Phoenix and living a pretty wild life, lots of partying. However, she could keep it in check. I was a blackout drunk. We were out with some friends at a party. I was particularly stupid that night and took my friend's car key to go pick up this couple I had met earlier in the night. They were Eastern European. I forget which country exactly. Needless to say, I was wasted and reckless. My sister called me while I was out, all upset BC our friend discovered that I took her car. I went back to the party and was promptly screamed at and kicked out, rightfully so. My sister was so embarrassed and crying. She was really intoxicated too, which wasn't a normal thing for her. I remember we were walking to find a taxi or something. It's all pretty hazy to me. The next thing I know, we are in the back of a car at a gas station on Grand Avenue. This street leads off into an old Arizona interstate highway. The random European couple I had met earlier and didn't end picking up were trying to open the door and get us out of the car. They had happened to be at this gas station at probably 1 a.m. I don't even know how they spotted me. They must have sensed trouble. I have hazy details, but I know they were frantic and insistent about getting us out of the car. From what they told us, the man driving the car appeared to be a total creep and no one I would seemingly associate with. I have no recollection of how we ended up in his car, who he was, where he was taking us, and why he needed to fill his tank. Sometimes I think the mysterious couple were angels sent to look after us. Both my sister and I were missing our phones the next day. I'm certain a man had taken them. There are a number of things that could have happened that night, and I feel lucky that we are still alive. It racks me with guilt that I put my little sister in that situation, and any time I feel like picking up a drink, it's one of the memories I play back to remind myself where alcohol takes me. For a bit of context, I work at a gas station in the backwoods of Tennessee, and that's where this happened. Last night when I clocked in at 8, the store was completely dead. I figured it was going to be a pretty easy night because the road this station is on is not the main road. Actually, it used to be up until about a decade ago when a new freeway was built. This led basically every business that was here to pack up and leave their old building abandoned. Thanks to this, there are a lot of abandoned buildings on this stretch of road that local druggies tend to claim as their own. Anyway, at around 11 I only had an hour left of my shift, and so I figured I should actually get some work done instead of just sitting around and doing nothing. I'm 18, and so I work the shift alone, which is nice because it means I can do pretty much whatever I want. This is normally pretty great because I can do whatever I want so long as I get what I need to get done finished. I noticed we were almost out of barbecue chips, and so I'd need to go get them from our storage space, which is for some reason in the basement of the station. I've always hated going down there, just because it gives me the creeps. Why the owner decided to store everything down there is beyond my comprehension. I got about halfway down the steps before something fell on the other side of the room, and it sounded like footsteps were coming my way. I sprinted up the stairs and locked the door to the basement, panicking like a madman the entire time. When I got back upstairs, I went behind the counter to the store computer so I could check the security cameras. I flicked over to the one that looks into the basement, and there was this guy just standing there smiling up into the camera. He had a look of absolute insanity in his eyes, but he didn't look like the average junkie in the area. He was clean-shaven and dressed in what looked to be jeans and a button-up of some kind. Honestly, if he'd walked into the store, I wouldn't have batted an eye, but because he was down there and became he was just looking into the camera smiling, it shook me to my core. I called the store owner, and at first he was pretty mad I called him in the middle of the night, but once he heard how freaked out I was, his tone changed. He told me he'd be there in 15 minutes and just to lock the main door to the store and make sure the man didn't go anywhere. I asked if I should call the police, but for some reason he didn't want me to do that just yet. I locked the entrance to the gas station and went back to looking at the man. He was still there, just smiling up at me. About 3 or so minutes of him staring at me later, and he walked out of view of the camera. My boss showed up soon after, armed with a shotgun, and when I let him in, he immediately went to the basement. I went with him just because I felt safe with there being another person there and all, but we found nothing. My boss ultimately chalked this up to me being tired and hallucinating the man, but I know what I saw. This is me scared shitless as I clock back into work in a few hours, and I'm really dreading it. Sorry for rambling, but I just needed to get this off my chest as it scared me to my core. About 3 months ago, I went to pick up Chinese food at a place my husband and I go very often. I paid using my debit card and then stopped at the same gas station I always do on my way home to throw $20 in the tank. When I went inside, I didn't recognize the clerk, but didn't think about this until later. I only really noticed it wasn't one of the same 5 employees I always talked to because of the weird interaction I had. I went to pay with the same debit card, and it declined. Weird, there was not a funding problem. I went to check my phone to see if my bank had texted me about the charge for some reason, only to find that instead of having service, my phone displayed SOS where 5G usually would be. I have never seen that before. Very confused, I tried to use one of my credit cards, issued from a different bank. Declined. Now embarrassed, I found some cash and told the cashier what pump I was on. There was no one else at the gas station, and I walked back to my car, pulled out the pump, and tried to start pumping gas. To no avail. The pump wasn't clearing from the previous transaction. My phone was still saying SOS, and hairs on the back of my neck started sticking up. The street around the gas station, which should have been somewhat busy for a Saturday evening, was completely dead. I was utterly confused and felt disoriented. After pressing all 3 types of gas and the clear button several times, I went back inside and asked the clerk if there was something wrong with the pump. They looked at me as if they hadn't ever seen or spoken to me and asked which pump I was on. On the second trip, I was able to get it to work, but drove away with the strangest feeling. My phone only started working when I got back to my house, and there has never been any problems with my cell service or bank cards since. I know it seems really mundane, but I can't shake the feeling that I left reality or left this timeline for 30 minutes.